Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues, friends. Welcome to the first session of the Daring Cities 2024 Virtual Forum. My name is Yunus Arikan. I'm the Director of Advocacy at ICLE Local Governments for Sustainability. Daring Cities is an initiative that has been in the making since 2020. I am really excited to have a very exciting agenda today. If we can first show what's our agenda for today. Um, Today we will have a discussion on the implementation of CHAMP at the local level, local leadership, as well as in connection to our initiative called Town Hall COPs. This is building on our discussion since the beginning of the year. I am delighted that this session will be joined by a diversity of leaders and experts. We will have interventions from Katja Derner, Mayor of Bonn, and Barbara Buffalo, Mayor of Columbia, US. They play an important role in nuclear leadership, both at the global level and the North America at the regional level. And in particular, they're also leaders in their national association. So they have been very active in the past couple of weeks, so we will hear from each of them, and especially with Mayor Buffalo, we will have a dialogue in terms of her experience in the way leading the CHAMP resolution of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. The second part will be a presentation from ICLE's team, from ICLE US, to share with you our concept of the idea of town hall COPs. And then in the third part, we will hear feedbacks from our colleagues who have already joined us in last year in hosting local stock takes, but also very actively involved in leading the multi-level action agenda in their countries. Risto Vevo from Turku, city of Turku, Shelley Nania from Bristol, and Andrea Paoloni from Rosario. Especially these are the three cities who have been active in the last year for the stock takes, and we will hear from them how they are experiencing or they reflect to this discussions. And if we have time, we will also open the floor for question and answer. For those who are in this space, this webinar is recorded and it will be uploaded. As you are seeing from my colleagues, Kata and Rebecca, you can type in your questions anytime of the discussion so that they can help us so that we can respond during the hours, during this hour of the presentation. If we go to the next slide, before before going into the details of our agenda for today, just remember those who have not been involved with us. We know Daring Cities as a community, but we may have colleagues who have been joining us new in this space. Daring Cities is an initiative of ICLE and City of Bonn in collaboration with support from the German Minister of Development and Cooperation, DMZ, as well as other partners like State of North Rhine-Westphalia. We are discussing this, how urban leaders are tackling on climate change by knowing more, acting better, and leading together. And every year we split our engagement through a year-round engagement. We reflect on the achievements of the previous years. Then we have an exchange with in-person discussions in Bonn and through the virtual forums like we are now starting off. And then we continue the outcomes of our discussions in the advocacy section, which is feeding into the UN meetings, especially in Urban October, but also in particular the UN Climate Conference at the end of the year. If we go to the next slide, we had the in-person session of the 2024 round of Bonn Dialogues. You can see the pictures. It was on 3rd and 5th of June. It was the first 3 days of the UN Climate Conference in Bonn. It was a diversity of open meetings, public meetings, but also closed meetings, workshops inside the UN and outside the UN. Those events outside the UN was hosted by GIZ, one of our partners in this process. And we also had a number of interventions throughout the 2 weeks of the UN climate conferences. This next slide was an opportunity to make the connection of the urban leaders with the UN negotiators, but also refresh their commitments. And in particular, this year we had a special focus on CHAMP, the initiative that came from COP28, which we'll discuss. The pictures you see here are the family pictures or the events in action, especially with the high-level champions of Azerbaijan and Emirates, the presidencies of COP28 and COP29, as well as leaders like Mayor of Niterói, Mayor of Bonn, and also global partners within the LGMA community. If you go to the next slide, um, this is how we have been leading in the daring cities or engaging in the daring cities, both in the reflect session. We had two webinars. The website was containing the reports and resources from the past years. We had more than 100 people interacting in our in-person meetings outside and inside the UN space. And our blogs, which has been also shared through our newsletters, has also been an important source that you can build upon after this meetings. And in the next slide, you can also see some of the screenshots of our resources that are all available on our website. And especially, we had a final newsletter, which is building up for 2 weeks of engagement in the UN climate talks, which captures both the Daring Cities agenda but also the UNFCCC agenda. So let's now focus onto our agenda for today. If you go to the next slide, we had been um, we are saying that this is the first round of the virtual forum. From this week onwards, every week you will have a special focus on different topics, which is presented by ICLE, BMZ, and other partners and City of Bonn. The agenda you see here, reflects the diversity of climate emergency action across all the continents and different capacities of cities, different conditions, but the commonality is that their ambition and their commitment for more inclusive action, more just action, and more ambitious action. And the results is also feeding into the reality that the world is going to a new era of climate action, and Daring Cities has been in the making of this process in this capacity by both in-person meetings, virtual dialogues, and advocacies at the end of the year. Next slide. Um, so in the preparatory phase, especially in March and April and May, we heard about CHAMP. It was an initiative, a legacy from COP28. It is basically a commitment of national governments to collaborate with local and regional governments in their new efforts for new climate plans to be presented by 2025 in Belém, COP30. It is already endorsed by 72 countries. They basically commit for consultation, collaboration, NDC planning, NDC investment, review of their progress, and high-level dialogues. In, in this sense, over this 6 months, significant experience has been built. In the next slide, we can say that those activities who have been achieved throughout these months are now all available on the LGMA website, citiesandregions.org, including specific resources both for the endorsing governments, but also for the LGMA community, the networks of local and regional governments. And you can also access to the previous sessions, the discussions, the minutes from the meetings that we had posted, both inside the closed meetings with the national governments in this process, but also in our public spaces as well. And in the next slide, which is also the theme of this discussion, we have also seen that while this is a commitment of the national governments, it is important the local government, those endorsing countries, to step up and announce their commitment to their, first of all, commend their national governments to commit to such an initiative, but also express readiness to collaborate together, and also send a message to their members that they should also step up in their commitments and engagement, because it is now open a space for us to engage in our national plans. In that sense, the Mayor of Bonn, Katja Dörner, in being inspired with the discussions here in Bonn, announced for a call to action. And this was immediately responded by three national associations: the German Association of Cities, the Brazilian National Front of Mayors in Sao Paulo, and in the same days, U.S. Conference of Mayors. In the past sessions and in Bonn, we had heard both from Mayor Dörner, but also Mayor Grail, Axel Grail. However, we did not have the chance to hear the experience in the US. And in that sense, I am now delighted, first of all, to hear from Mayor Dörner what was the call to action. And we will immediately follow up with Mayor Buffalo in terms of how she has taken up this message and take it up forward in the US. Listen from Mayor Derner now.
Dear fellow mayors, esteemed audience, we are living in exciting times. When I came to COP28 in Dubai last December, CHAMP had just taken off. When speaking alongside German State Secretary Jochen Flassbart at the ministerial meeting on urbanization and climate change, I offered the Daring Cities Forum as a pivotal platform, an annual milestone to build upon this unprecedented momentum. And we have definitely walked the walk in Bonn. Alongside the Bonn Climate Change Conference just 2 weeks ago, we organized the first ever roundtable on CHAMP with national and local representatives from more than 20 nations and promising examples like from Bangladesh and Colombia. I'm also the Vice President of the German Association of Cities, and I'm very proud to announce that, upon my suggestion, the first ever resolution on CHAMP has been adopted by a local government association. Amongst other goals, it calls on the German government to drive the establishment of a new collaboration and consultation platform between cities, their networks, and the federal government for a new multi-level national climate plan by 2025, and encourage cities to convene their town hall COPs as an innovative approach to connect national and global processes. And even more, my dear colleague Axel Kral from Niterói, Brazil, who holds that very same mandate of Vice President in his National Cities Association, decided to follow and suggest the same proceedings to the Brazilian Majors Association. As ICLEI's leaders on climate action and advocacy, Major Kral and I are inviting each other and every ICLEI leader to replicate similar efforts in your countries and share your progress with us at the annual Daring Cities Forum in Bonn and report to UNFCCC. This year, Daring Cities has proven to be a catalyst for new ways of collaboration, and I'm grateful for the tremendous support of the climate champions of COP28 and COP29. Not only did we jointly host a panel on multi-level collaboration on the 5th of June, but also the Azerbaijan presidency announced their priorities for COP29 for the very first time. It gives me hope that multi-level collaboration is more and more becoming a catalyst of climate action in more and more countries on the way to Baku and Belém and to our ultimate goal, the timely implementation of the Paris Agreement. And ICLEI and the Daring Cities are a born partner to further progress.
Indeed, we are now delighted and honored to have Mayor Barbara Buffalo, Mayor of Colombia, US, who is also the member of the North American Regional Executive Board of ICLEI, but at the same time, chair of the Environment Committee of the US Congress of Mayors, who has been following the discussions remotely, but she has been pushing the agenda in the US Congress of Mayors. Mayor Buffalo, congratulations for your leadership. While hearing from you, I would encourage my colleagues to show the other slide where the text of the resolution is there. But we'd like to hear from your inspirations. How did you decide to take onwards, and what does it mean to the US cities, the resolution that is adopted?
Yes, well, thank you, and thank you for having me, and also for ICLEI's leadership in this. My name is Barbara Buffalo. I serve as the mayor of Columbia, Missouri, and we're a mid-sized city in the U.S. But like many U.S. cities, we know that we need to work on climate change. In Colombia, we're in the middle of the country, so we don't have things like sea level rise and some of the issues that our peers on the coast do. But for us, we have extreme heat in our summer times, rainfalls. We've had the wettest summer we've ever had in 135 years, and we're having to deal with that. And so I was honored to get to attend COP28 last year. And it was one of the largest, if not the largest, mobilization of U.S. local and regional governments at a COP. And we know that because when we work together, we can actually deliver on the promises that our country has made. When this mobilization came together, it was really great to see our voices at a global policy table. And I think that's what is going to make CHAMP actually even more impactful in our communities. Because even just attending Dubai, being there was great, but really the impact back home is what I'm there to do. And so for the United States, we committed obviously to CHAMP, the subnational governments. We're talking about climate related processes. And I'm hopeful to see that implemented. In Columbia, Missouri, we adopted our first climate action and adaptation plan in 2019 with a goal to reduce 100% of our greenhouse gas emissions by 2060. We update that plan every 5 years, and so we're doing that right now. So this couldn't come at a better time because we know that it won't be possible for us to achieve our goals without policy and innovation at the federal. And the coordination between our local and national governments is crucial to achieving this just transition. And I can say that with confidence because my previous role, I was actually the sustainability manager for my city. And I know that when I worked with my peers in other cities, we actually saw positive change happen. We were able to influence our federal government to help give us more funding for some of the implementation actions that we needed to do. So for the resolution that we passed for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I serve as the chair of the Standing Committee on the Environment, and that is a committee made up of just mayors, where we pass resolutions or approach support resolutions that our organization and fellow mayors can advocate on a federal level. The resolution that I passed, which you can see on the screen here, I want to point out the two biggest things of this is really where we all know is in the now therefore and our resolutions at the bottom. So I'll read those for you because it says, now therefore be it resolved that the United States Conference of Mayors endorses the CHAMP initiative. And in doing so, we invite U.S. cities and towns to update their 2030, 2040, and 2050 climate targets and communicate that to the United States. So that's the first one. That's the call to action to the cities. The second one is the be it further resolved that we encourage the United States government to act on its endorsement of the CHAMP initiative, supporting town hall COPs as the next iteration of the Paris Agreement stocktakes process, as well as the key mechanisms for receiving input and pursue this engagement on the road to COP 29 and 30. I want to pull those out because that's our next action that we as cities need to do and us as an organization are working on. One of the things we're working with our fellow partners within our Association of Counties. And then we're thinking about how can we bring this home for us locally. I had the honor of speaking with our ambassador for subnational, the first U.S. ambassador to cities and subnational government, Nina Hashigan. Nina and I spoke on Monday about how they can actually help us in implementing this. So for Climate Week later in New York City in September, they'll be organizing an event for us to kind of get together and see what sort of assistance we're going to need from that. One of the big things that I have for me to take forward from this in my own city is how can I have my own sort of top town hall COP? What do I need to do that? How do I work with this? And I'm just thankful to have ICLEI in my back pocket to help me organize that. So I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Mayor Buffalo. Indeed, we were very excited to hear both the way you have prepared this resolution, but also the next steps. And obviously, U.S. was one of the pioneering countries, both in the endorsement of CHAMP, but also, as you said, U.S. is one of the first countries who had a subnational diplomacy position, who is in the State Department, like the equivalent to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and leading in the climate negotiations. That you are in touch with her, and I'm also very excited because you are talking to counties, the Association of Counties, which is for those who are outside the U.S. These are like a regional government below the states, but it gathers a couple of other cities around, which means that you're even taking further. And finally, I think it's a great news that you are we will be connected to us because we are just in the phase of how we will be joining the New York City Climate Week. As you said, we are informed that the endorsers of the CHAMP will have their high-level political dialogue on 24th of September, and the leadership of U.S. Conference of Mayors, Germany, and Brazil, and other cities and networks, we will hope to see that more examples like this will bring their results, and we look forward to also joining with you there so that you can continue to your leadership and spread the word across the U.S. Actually, you have made a very nice segue because the text of the FNP, Deutsche Städtetag, and U.S. Conference of Mayors each has their different, let's say, priorities because of their national context, but all of them also say that we have to do better. And the reference to town hall COPs is very visible in the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We will now hear from them, but we have a small poll for the participants of our webinar today, just to check how they are also discussing this issue. I will ask my colleague Kata to show our first poll before we hand over to my colleague from ICLEI to talk about tunnel COP. So the question is, how do you think your local or some other subnational government is engaged with the COP28 championship? As you heard from Mayor Buffalo, there are national associations, there are individual cities. So the options that you can consider that, first of all, you may be speaking on behalf of your government, or you may be an observer or constituent on it. So we use the word we or they in the sense that you can respond in both capacities. They are already in touch with your national government directly. In the case of Mayor Buffalo, she was in touch with the Nicha Hajigan. That kind of a dialogue may have happened. It may be possible, the second option, that you may not be engaged yet, but you may respond positively if leaders like ICLEI, Mayor Buffalo, or associations like your national association can knock on your door and invite you to participate. And the last option is that maybe your government is not necessary at all. So let's give 30 seconds for all you to respond, and then we will continue with the town hall COPs idea. Meanwhile, in case Mayor Buffalo has an agenda, of course, don't want to keep her longer, but especially after listening from the colleagues, maybe if you have any remarks, you are more than welcome to share your additional comments on what you expect and how this can contribute. But if you're busy, of course, we are more than happy to slowly step out based on your calendar. Kata, did we receive enough responses so far?
Yes, I think you can see the results now.
Excellent. So a huge majority of our participants of this call says that their local government, or they as the local government of their community, they're interested if there is additional invitation to call to action by ICLEI leaders in their country or their national association. I think that's a very nice message. The role that ICLEI leaders, because ICLEI is a network of committed leaders, but we cannot represent all the leaders in their own national government. So we have to work with our national association. So the case of Mayor Buffalo, the case of Mayor Turner is an excellent leadership, Mayor Grail, that because they are so connected with ICLEI, they can be approaching their national associations, and they can even expand further their impact to the rest of the national leadership in their country, and then reach out to their national government. So I see, assuming that Kale is with us. Kale, Mayor Buffalo has mentioned that town hall COP is an idea that it is inspiring. So what do we mean? What it means to convene a town hall COP? So the floor is yours, the Deputy Director of ICLEI US.
Wonderful. Thank you, Yunus. Hello, everyone. Good to be here. I have the benefit of being in the United States, where we enjoy leadership like we have with Mayor Barbara Buffalo from Colombia. Can you all believe that there is a mayor that used to be a sustainability manager in a city? That is a standard that I think we all can push for. And we might even see more of that if we can get the town hall COPs to be the movement that we really need it to be. So this will be the how-to portion of today's event. I believe that my colleagues Kata might have some slides that we could get pulled up. Thank you, Kata. I wanted to step back with a little history of what brought us to this moment where we could think of a national or an international process like a COP at a local level. How did we get here where we're trying to bring a COP home to any town hall, city hall across any of our countries? So a little context going back before the Paris Agreement came to be in 2015, and then after. So let's just recognize that the world did not really see climate change as the emergency necessarily that we do today. So that before the Paris Agreement, the concept of a climate emergency declaration in a city for example, was not really a thing yet. Now bring us to today, and over 2,000 cities around the world have declared a climate emergency. Many of them within the ICLE network, of course, across the LGMA communities. Local governments that had not yet set the ambitious target of net zero or carbon neutrality by mid-century. Now 1,000 cities have defined those science-based targets. NDCs, our National Paris Agreement goals, not many of them referencing local governments, hardly any collaborating with local governments before Paris. Now we see 60 or more national governments directly involving their local communities, representing about 2/3 of NDC with some level of urban or city component. For those of you who are really plugged into this work in an academic way, digging through these NDCs, you will know that even though there's references to local government climate action, they're not all that strong today. So next slide, please. That really will bring us to where we found ourselves in the past couple years with the first global stocktake for the Paris Agreement. You all know that this was a national-led process that through LGMA advocacy opened a door for local cities and regions to be contributing in an official way through the UNFCCC. But it's important to note that this was a stock take, right? It's a backward-looking process, taking stock of where we are today. And the national stock takes and then the local stock take iteration had 3 key focus areas. Looking at what are the local and regional contributions to Paris Agreement plans. How and to what degree do national governments incorporate local climate plans into national Paris goals? And then this particular focus on justice. We think of justice internationally around the loss and damage negotiations, and then, of course, locally as far as who are the most vulnerable in our community that are impacted by climate and often left behind. So next slide, please. That local stocktake backward focus effort was a success, thanks to many of you. Nearly 30 cities across the country, several in the United States where I am, hosted local stock takes and then were able to contribute that feedback to the UNFCCC. Now we can think about looking forward. So town hall COPs not only repackage or provide another round of stock taking, they really open this path for looking for the future. What is the next generation of climate action? What does ambition in a multi-level way really look like? And importantly, what are the mechanisms, the really specific things that a national government should do to ensure that they're hearing from local communities and that those data, that the stories, that the desires from local communities are represented very clearly in the next round of NDCs. I messed up my slide a little bit here on the left-hand side. But just know that we are outlining a very step-by-step kind of process for how a town hall COP can look. And I want to start out by saying many cities and regions in this network are very ambitious already. You have lots and lots of events that you're hosting with your communities all the time. Any one of these events can be refashioned as a town hall COP in whole or in part. And we've got the toolkit to help you, guide through the questions that you're going to ask. how you're going to work with your community, youth stakeholders, and others to answer those questions. But I do want to highlight on the right-hand side of the screen the kind of reimagined three focus areas where we can orient a town hall COP around local empowerment, of course. Better integrating what's happening locally on climate into the NDCs. They're very formal mechanisms that will look different in every country. And then further elevate the role of local cities, towns, counties, regions in the UNFCCC, but all global processes. This is a big year for nature COPs as well, and that's on many of our radar. Climate justice is not at all forgotten in this new town hall COP iteration. It shows up primarily in the local empowerment focus, but is woven throughout global policy, multi-level NDCs, and elsewhere. So just important to note that justice remains. So my final slide here will just recount a proposed timeline. The takeaway here is let's get started, right? Any one of our communities can host a town hall COP, can piggyback on an event you've already got planned, going into Urban October. Next year, Earth Month in April is a prime time. But let's keep in mind that we're looking to influence our national government Paris plans between now and in a meaningful time frame before we get to Belém at COP30, when that new round of NDCs will be presented. That's the end of next year. Many NDCs will be presented much earlier in the first quarters of next year. So no need to wait. You've got leaders like Mayor Buffalo and many more to show you the path forward. So thank you, Eunice, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Kale. Thank you both for this presentation, also leading us this journey, because we had so many US cities involved in this place. So in our last part of this discussion, we have three distinguished colleagues. The advantage is that they were immediately responding to ICLEI's call for local stock takes, and they're also actively involved in the multi-level collaboration in their countries. I will first start with my colleague Risto Weber from Turku, who is also here on behalf of Mayor Mina Arve, who's first vice president of ICLEI, the last election in Sao Paulo. We know Finland, as a European Union country, is already involved in the EU policy, but Finland is also not endorsed yet the CHAMP. And I know Mayor Arve, because of her leadership in ICLEI and models from US, from Germany, and from Brazil, there are some preparations. So Risto, how do you think CHAMP can be influential in how you can help the CHAMP in Finland? And how do you think this town hall COP, a forward-looking process, could help to develop our agendas in Turku to support Turku's actions? So thanks a lot for your time, Risto. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yunus, and good afternoon or good morning or good evening to everyone, depending on where you are located. And my apologies for having arrived a bit late. For us in the city of Turku, we have three important sustainability goals. One is to become a climate neutral area by 2029. Another one is to promote and increase biodiversity. And the third one is to reach a sustainable use of natural resources. And I actually spent the last few hours in a protected forest where I've been actively involved, and now I'm in the cottage by this forest. So sorry for if there's any connection problems. Thank you for the presentations, and big respect and big thanks to ICLEI and everyone for influencing the process and creating such a clear and useful framework for our contributions from the local level towards the COPs, and especially I think the plan as it stands now for the Belém COP, and an idea of working on these town hall COPs and on CHAMP for the next 1.5 years with a goal-oriented approach towards COP30 is very useful, and it gives us a good possibility to plan a good local process. Like you mentioned, Yunus, we were one of the cities organizing the first town hall COP last year, and it was the first round. There were some 30 cities, 30 municipalities globally that had organized the town hall COP before the Dubai COP, and we found it very useful and we learned a lot from that first round. Of course, we are continuously involved with our stakeholders and citizens, and in that sense, what Kyle was saying about like redesigning any engagement events to serve also a function as a town hall COP is a flexible and proved approach that we put to use last year. We had diverse group like climate grannies, youth organizations, different NGOs taking part, and also 40 local businesses and public sector entities, the main actors in our region, all contributing. And we found that to be a very, very useful process. And we tried to provide a consolidated report to ICLEI. The overall agenda of the town hall COPs last year was quite wide, and we made some choices on which questions to focus mainly in our process. And I think the idea of with a stock take, and on the other hand, with the aspect of looking forward, is quite useful. And from the discussions that we had with the participants, with the stakeholders last year, I think that is exactly what they also long for, and where they were very eager to contribute. Combining the town hall COPs and CHAMP is an excellent idea, and I can say that we have had progress with our national government during last spring and this summer, and it's very likely that Finland will endorse CHAMP in the coming weeks, and we look forward to the UN events and the high-level forum and the climate week in September in New York in that regard. What else to share? Networking and sharing is really key to successful local climate action, and we have benefited from ICLEI's network since the 1990s. We have been part of the Covenant of Mayors since 2009. We have been implementing a council level approved climate action program since 2009 as well. And at the moment, we have reduced the greenhouse gas emissions of our area by 63% from the level of 1990 as of 2023. And we are continuing in that track. And at the same time, we are putting a strong focus on green transition towards a sustainable local economy that is competitive and serving the needs of people in Turku and in other parts of the world as well. And the just transition where no one is left behind. Maybe that's enough for now. Thank you.
Excellent, Risto. It's really exciting to hear Mayor Arve, and together with the Finnish Association of Cities, you are working to bring Finland as one of the new endorsers, and that's the value to bring the local bottom-up proposals, the global agendas and the global connections, and then reaching to your national government. We're going to we're still in the European continent. We are going to UK. I'm delighted to have Shelley Nania, who has also been hosting a very successful stocktake in last year. But obviously, since then, there have been important changes. There was election in Bristol. We have a new leadership, new administration, and there was a snap election in our country. And in Dubai, unfortunately, UK was the only G7 country who had not endorsed CHAMP. But I know together with Core Cities UK, Bristol and many other cities are working hard. So, Shelley, how do you now hear the stories of CHAMP, the National Association mobilization, and this town hall COP, a city like Bristol? What is your takeaway, and how can we expect your contributions and engagement in this process? Thank you very much. The floor is yours, Shelley.
Thank you, Yunus. So yeah, as Yunus said, I'm speaking on behalf of Bristol, but also Core Cities UK, which is the 11 biggest cities outside of London. From a Bristol perspective, last year we hosted a town hall COP related event, and invited a selection of partners in, and there were two main asks. One was around what ambitious action they're taking and how, because we have in Bristol we have what's called the one city approach. So our climate plan, our emergency programme is actually signed off by a selection of city partners, city organisations. So we asked them, that's community groups through to business, the universities, a whole select cross sector. And the questions were, what ambitious action are you taking and what are the asks of national government? And we sent those in. We did a report afterwards. We sent it in. We invited them down. They didn't come to Bristol for that event, but we did do a report and sent it into UK government ahead of COP. And then we met with them at COP, and they had read the report and taken on board some of the comments. And then the brilliant thing is in May, following COP, they recognised all of the ambitious action that was taking place in UK cities. And we had a delegation of 25 Foreign Office officials come to Bristol in May, which was brilliant. And we had a whole selection from what was happening in terms of policy, but also meeting with community partners so that they could see the range of activity that's happening in the city. And this year in Bristol, and we are in coordination with other UK core cities as well, we will be looking to do COP-related events in our cities. So just an example, for Bristol, we're focusing on ambitious, where we know we're taking ambitious action, we're working with various different organisations and community representatives. So we're going to have one on youth and one on climate investment, because we're going to be publishing our investment plan. And other cities in the UK, Glasgow, obviously former COP host, and probably a couple of others will do COP-related events. And the idea is we are proposing to central government that we have a roundtable with them in October following those events. As Eunice said, we've got a new government this year. We know from before our shadow cabinet, they were very supportive of cities' engagement on climate. So obviously they've only settling in now, but you know, we are reaching out to them to make that offer. And then of course taking those messages and feeding them into the global processes via ICLE, you know, things like the Urban October Week and other ways of doing it. So it was interesting to hear from Mayor Buffalo actually, and having the US Conference of Mayors in have that endorsement of CHAMP. So I think actually that's something we can consider for Core Cities UK. We're also in contact with London and C40 as well. So thank you, Mayor Buffalo, for that. That's a good takeaway, I think, actually, to do something like that. So yeah, I think that's probably the main points to make from a sort of Bristol and UK core cities perspective. But I think this collective approach that cities can work together is really supports what cities are doing individually. So having that kind of local, national, and then international is makes it really clear, I think, for cities to engage with their governments.
Excellent, Shirley. It's very encouraging to see when you communicate the results of your findings to your national government and then their positive response. Let's hope that this is exactly what type of dialogue we want, and so that we can help them to be more ambitious. And in return, as you said, investment plans. I think this is exactly what UN is calling for. Design the new NDCs like your climate investment plans, which means that Bristol has already taken this step forward. And that could really be good to show in Baku that such a model is already implementing. And I'm very happy that you are taking into account a similar resolution from Core Cities. Core Cities is also the UK partner in the Urban 7. And the timeline that Kale has presented fits very good with your plan for an event in October. So that's really reflects that what's happening on the ground, and what the proposal from networks like ICLE is really supporting each other. So we will continue to stay in touch with you so that we keep informed. And in September, maybe along with Finland, we can have UK also a new endorser. So a lot of stuff to go forward. But now let's switch gears, change our geography to Latin America. We are delighted to be joined by our colleague Andrea Paoloni, who was also who is representing city of Rosario, one of the pioneers during the stock take exercises. And in fact, Andrea was also with ICLE in the World Congress in Sao Paulo, where we had a dedicated session for climate emergency and climate engagement through the climate activism, through the citizen engagement groups. Unfortunately, Andrea, in Sao Paulo, we had a Spanish translation for your session, but for this round, we are a bit short of our capacity. So I'm very happy that you accepted our proposal that while professionally, but my colleague Kata will help you to convey your messages. I know you have prepared the presentation, but the time is not very suitable for us. But I would like to invite you to share your insight about citizen engagement, the stock takes and town hall calls. We know Argentinian government is not very much eager yet for champs, so we are not asking you to comment on your discussion at the national level, but still at the local level, how this kind of new tools is inspiring and what offers can come from Rosario. I know you had a citizen climate and council or this kind of mobilization, so which may be inspiring for other cities. Andrea, feel free to speak, and Kata is taking notes, and she will help you to convey your messages as well. Thanks for joining us, Andrea.
Ok, Andrea, si podría, por favor, resumir Ay, un momento. Resumir la participación ciudadana y sobre todo en los COPs municipales a nivel local, cómo están inspirando estas herramientas y qué está haciendo Rosario en este tema.
Bueno, buenos días, buenas tardes allá, gracias por la invitación. Disculpen que, bueno, no hablo inglés, así que espero que algunos puedan comprender. En Rosario venimos haciendo muchas acciones de participación ciudadana. Durante 2023 hicimos 3 mini COPs en distintas fechas: Día de la Tierra, Día del Ambiente, Día de las Ciudades. Le llamamos ágora en el sentido griego, porque es el espacio de confluencia de lo público y donde nos encontramos las personas a debatir en términos políticos. Y creemos que la política y lo público tienen mucho que ver con esta crisis ambiental, y son 2 palabras que están muy degradadas en este momento, y necesitamos generar espacios para revalorizar esos espacios. En ese momento generamos estos 3 espacios, invitamos a los jóvenes, invitamos a los referentes de las organizaciones sociales, invitamos a la sociedad a que se sume, a debatir, a pensar cómo abordamos esta crisis climática, y en función de eso también cruzamos el lenguaje con otros lenguajes como el arte, como la ciencia, como la cultura. Porque pensamos y sostenemos que la acción climática es cultural y tenemos que pensarla desde ese lugar, con todas las complejidades que eso implica, y también aceptando que no siempre vamos a poder medir cuantitativamente los impactos de las acciones culturales. Así que bueno, un poco resumiendo, eso es lo que quería contarles hoy.
Okay, so I'm gonna summarize. So in Rosario, they have many citizen actions. In the past, they've had 3 mini COPs on 3 different days. They call them actually agoras instead of town hall COPs. That comes from the Greek. And they found, kind of getting people together, having people debate and discuss with kind of from this approach that people in politics are very much connected. And so these spaces for these discussions are very much needed. They invited young people, different stakeholders, representative organizations to talk about climate change and the climate crisis, but also making sure that this doesn't just happen in a silo, but that these conversations are also linked to other topics, such as, for example, culture, because the approach or the point of view is that climate change, climate crisis was very complex, and so is very much connected to other topics, and that not everything is kind of this quantifiable or can be measured, but that it happens on a lot of different levels.
Well, thanks, Kata, for the transition. And Andre, I think what you pointed out is extremely valuable because we discussed in COP in Dubai, there were new topics into the negotiations like food, health, and culture, and that's part of the commitments. And on the ground level, we always know that this was always in the making of any local climate action captures that. And I think it's really good that you demonstrate that this is always on the priority. So we can now also ask our national governments to bring these kind of efforts of the local governments because they are already being reaching to the citizens through this kind of topics that makes the climate debate much more understandable and much more close and brings ownership to the citizens for being committed. Kata, you can again maybe summarize very briefly and then we can feedback two more sentences from Andrea as a response and then we will conclude.
Ya, nada, que lo que ha dicho es extremadamente valioso y que estos temas que también ha dicho usted en Dubái, como el tema de la comida, la salud, la cultura, ha sido mucho más presente este año. Y bueno, ya sabíamos que a nivel local esto siempre ha sido importante y ahora necesitamos pues más acción para conectar con estos temas y hacer que, bueno, que el debate sobre el clima sea más infravalorado y que ciudadanos lo entiendan mejor. Gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you. Gracias, Andrea, and for your flexibility, and Kata for this a bit ad hoc task on top of your mission, but I think it's really appreciated for our participants. So,
gracias, Andrea.
From three of our leaders, experts, the staff or their leaders in their cities who have been involved in this process. But we have now the second poll. While talking through this poll, we also have seen some questions into the chat box, so we'll try to address this if possible. But let's first show our poll in terms of how do we wish to hear your feedback from the participants of this webinar. Can we show that poll? So exactly. Now this question is to all the audience of this webinar. How do you think your local or other subnational government can respond to Town Hall COP initiative? So you may say, like the case of Turku or Bristol or Rosario, that it is already happening in your city, and you can already adjust some of the existing models, and then you can respond. So the option is that we or they can easily mobilize thanks to their capacity and background. That you may have skilled staff, you may have such similar experiences. The second option could be that this local government that you're involved with, they can be interested, but they may need additional support and guidance. And that can apply both to the global north and global south. In the last year, we were able to provide a very basic financial contribution, especially to the global south. This year, we don't have it secured yet. But if there is an appetite, this could also give us the confidence. And third, obviously, you may think that your government, your local government, is really not interested in climate action. It's possible that we are proud with 2,500 network cities of ICLEI, but we're talking about hundreds of thousands of cities. And it is true that not every city is in the same level. So that could also be an option. And if you believe this is the situation you're in, you can choose this. We would like to make sure that the response that you are providing, we will assess and try to include this in our planning of this process of town hall COPs. So feel free to submit your views. Let's give 30 seconds. Meanwhile, I know, Kale, in your last slide, there was a mistake. I'm not sure whether you had any chance to update your slide, because I think the box that was invisible was a valuable thing, which was showing additionality. Meanwhile, I see some questions. For example, our colleagues from Nigeria are asking how Nigeria can be involved in. There is the response we can share with Evelyn from Nigeria is that ICLEI has members in Nigeria, but not too many. What we can do is that we can introduce our colleagues in ICLEI Africa, so that they can help you to bring. We have some members, but not too much. Maybe you are among those cities, or you may introduce them to new ones as well. Justin is asking, okay, let's hear the results of the polls first, Kata. Good. One fourth of our participants believe they can already adjust to this initiative. We will just show the revised slide because I heard my colleague Kata has made this possible. So it's good that you can easily take it up on board. And the majority is saying that we are ready, or they are ready, the local government are ready, and they can step in if they receive additional information. So here is the slide that Kale was trying to show, and this is the official one. There was a mistake in the previous one. So let's remember, we're talking about a preparatory where we will help you to provide some toolkits, some templates, but it will be the local government who will organize the event itself. It could be in your council, it will be in your municipal hall, or in a public space like a library, or any community buildings, so that you give the feeling that it is a part of the official process. The most important thing that is new is that you are expected, or you would like to communicate the discussions you will have to your national government. That's important, as Kale mentioned. In the next couple of months, they are preparing. That's exactly what the CHAMP commitment is, so that you can, the moment you make your meeting and you make your reporting available, you can send this to your national government, so that their task is that to integrate that what they heard from you, like you heard from Shelley, like you that the case in the case of US, so that they can reflect this in their NDCs. But we also know it's not always easy, and there are certain challenges, sometimes political, sometimes technical. Therefore, at the same time you report to your national government, we are encouraging you to send it to ICLE, to LGMA constituency, so that when we're in the UNFCCC COPs, we can definitely share that here are the cities who have started to prepare for their ambition plan and make ready for multi-level action, so that we inform the UNFCCC those cities are ready to take on board. And even if you are not traveling to COP, you can still reflect the outcomes. One of the things we will introduce is that there are constituencies in the UNFCCC space. We will try to connect them to their notes, local notes, to your meetings, so that you can also have them on board. Kata, are there any questions or points that we missed in the chat so far? Because we're getting to the end.
Yeah, Shelley asked, when will the Town Hall COP toolkit be available?
Shelley, that's a good question. We are doing our best to make it available by August, probably second half of August, so that you can consider in your planning, and that you can even provide your feedback, so that we can also update this. So that's our commitment. If what is the role of horizontal? Justin Wanje, what is the role of horizontal and vertical integration in connecting? What is the role of local and vertical integration? Actually, if there is an integration, there is a connection. So I think the first thing we have to ask for is that, of course, the main response was the national one, so that we should tell them that please open the doors for us to provide input. But inside the administration, at the local level, what we can also say that the horizontal level is that it's not just always environment department. You have to talk about transport department. You have to talk about your planning department. Sometimes they may not be aware of what the environment or climate departments are doing. So horizontal, I think, it also addresses within the administrations, and therefore such public meetings is also an opportunity for administrations to step up and stand as a whole and make all the staff being aware of the plans, because the climate plan, as Shelley mentioned, this is really the most important investment plan for the future sustainability of your cities. It's one of the most important tools to make sure your city is going towards the SDG. So try to make sure that this is embraced and empowered by everyone. My last slide would be the announcement of our next webinar. Next Wednesday, on the 6th of August, you will be hearing the second session, Bridging the Ambition Gap from Planning to Implementing Local Climate Action. And this will be also together with the US colleagues. You will see a diversity of inputs. Feel free to register yourself. I think we have come to the end of our webinar today. I assume there is not a burning any remaining questions, but feel free to reach out to Daring Cities at icle.org to communicate any messages. Thanks for your participation, especially to our panelists, and for your leadership and your engagement with ICLE. And we look forward to continuing the dialogues and hear your results so that we bring back to Baku and Belém in years ahead, in the months and years ahead. Have a nice day.
Thank you.